I was walking through campus the other day. It's a wonderful world filled with a very diverse set of people that also have some very noticeable things in common. They all need food, they all need water, and they also need some air to survive. And they all have actually listened to some sort of music at some point in their life. And there is so much diversity in the music that they listen to as well. Who here has not ever had an argument on what is believed to be good music? Those arguments show an almost fanatical adherence to a certain song or style. People get upset at a very personal level when their music is harshly criticized, and I mean, it's no wonder. Music is personal. So let's talk about the different types of music. And I am not here to talk about the different cultural preferences in music appreciation, nor am I here to describe the trends in historical musical preference. I am here to show an understanding of the selective tendencies that people possess when listening to a song for the first time. What would make people desire a repetition of that song? Would there be any additional factors in their personality that would increase their appreciation for a particular type of song? The intent of this talk is to explain the link between personality traits and the music preferred by individuals. When you break it down, there are essentially two categories that we can put songs into: accessible and inaccessible. But let's take a step back and look at what makes these accessible and inaccessible musics the way that they are. This is a very, very prime example of what an accessible song truly is. And now, as much as I love Taylor Swift, let's have a example of a more inaccessible song. Here's a song by a lesser known band by a band named Hella. And so, I must ask, which would you prefer? What do you think the differences are between accessible and inaccessible music? So let's break it down. First of all, let's start with accessible music. Accessible music usually contains some of the following traits. It has a 4x4 beat. It's usually in a major key. It has a very simple structure all around, and it has a huge similarity to different songs that have been previously heard. It usually has a very moderate length. And here is an image of what an accessible song would look like on a sheet of music. And now let's take a look at inaccessible music. These usually contain these same characteristics as accessible music, but with a very kind of overwhelmingly deviating from the standard. It usually has very unconventional and very changing rhythms. It has conflicting melodies as well as tonalities, very unfamiliar patterns as well as unpredictable structures, and it has nauseating repetition some of the times, and it also has a very kind of unusual and unpredictable length. And all of these characteristics overall are very, very attention-grabbing. And so, let's pull up an image of what inaccessible music would look like on a sheet of paper. So there are some people that ingest accessible music more easily because of its predictability. Some have a very hard time consuming inaccessible music because of its unpredictability. When a listener hears recognized patterns, the neurons in their brain begin to fire as they connect with their auditory memory. And so when a song is experienced for the first time, there is a sense of anticipation that in the listener that will soon turn into a pattern identification or recognition. The certain motifs of the song can lead to predictions of how the music will sound throughout. And so if this prediction is correct, dopamine can be released in the brain and a sense of reward is experienced. For example, when an audience is listening to an accessible pop song, they anticipate the catchy chorus, and when they reach it, they receive a biochemical gratification. But on the flip side, when a listener consumes an inaccessible song, the anticipation levels are not always satisfied because of the unpredictable nature of the song. So no anticipation satisfied would then mean that there is no dopamine released. Therefore, there would be no sense of gratification. And so based on this principle, you would think that there would be no people listening to unconventional or inaccessible music. But there are indeed large groups of people that ingest and even prefer inaccessible music. And why is that? In the article entitled Predictions and the Brain, How Music Sounds Become Rewarding, the idea of too much prediction is confronted. And so under a large number of repetitions, there is no more release of dopamine experienced. Is this musical plateau reached at different points for different people? I believe that the moment of pattern boredom is actually highly dependent on each individual, and the particular proportions of personality traits affecting their lifestyle. Personality traits could have a strong effect on the point where fulfillment of expectation stops becoming rewarding. All humans ingest music. However, everybody absorbs it in very, very different ways. Under current psychological knowledge, there are about 5 personality traits that have been viewed as important in describing behavior. These big 5 personality traits are extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and openness to experience. Research suggests that personality traits and neurological characteristics may influence the genres of music that one prefers. A study performed by a team of researchers at the University of Ottawa implies that there are links supporting the suggested correlation between the 2 parameters. The report discusses that specific personality traits, such as openness and extroversion, may be related to musical preference. Individuals who report high degrees of neuroticism may be likely to prefer similar and familiar situations and experiences with high levels of anticipation. On the other hand, people who are described as more open to experience may gravitate to new and unfamiliar experiences that include low levels of anticipation. People whose personalities show the openness trait tend to crave inaccessible music that is much more complex. The Journal of Youth and Adolescence published a study that proposed that children tend to gravitate towards music that relates to their personality traits. Therefore, people tend to prefer music that meshes really, really well with their personality because they can psychologically connect to it. So why should we care? How does this help us understand the world around us? In a study, reciprocal relationship between neuroticism and life events, performed by Dr. Geronimus Bertis and his team, it was determined that there is a strong relationship between the 2. Could this have a very general effect on our musical preferences? Would this idea be supported in any way in our current times? This idea may explain the huge popularity of pop songs and their high degree of musical predictability in our current times. The world is changing at a very, very fast pace. And so much so that our minds are continuously stimulated by new and unpredictable events every single day. This is occurring in the same time as the boom of pop music in the music industry. Under the thesis presented earlier, it is indicated that the predictability of pop songs can offer comfort to the modern human. It provides as a mode of relaxation as well as tension-relieving processes. Likewise, music is very, very important in communicating. The more that we understand music, the more that we can interpret societal connections and develop advancements in psychology and understanding the human mind.